Hello, everyone. Oh, it's good to see you all showing up on the screen. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Zeta.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Hello, Rose. Hello, everyone. David, Patrick. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here, and grateful to Chris and GatherVerse for inviting me to host you in this panel. We are starting this morning or this evening, wherever you may be, with a very dear and topic to my heart: humanity and the role of AI or technology in general on future society. But and it is amazing to see I have worked with AI for my entire career in the earlier days of it, and it's amazing for it to have become practically a household word. Not that I'm sure that people realize what we mean. So I will come back to myself, but I would love to start by asking you all to introduce yourselves, please. So Zeta, may I start with you, and then you pass the baton to whoever as you see fit. You're muted, my dear. You are muted. It's okay. We've lost her. Maybe someone else can pick up Rose. I know your mic works. I was listening to you earlier. It was wonderful to hear your commentary.
It's great to have a chance to be here and to meet you, Lubna. I'm Rose Haft, the founder of Luminara and Pathomap. So Luminara, we built the first biomedical-based augmented and virtual reality system that integrates with human biology. And Pathomap is our healthcare AI that sits on top of it. We can pass it to Patrick next.
Patrick, we don't hear you. We need some AI here to address our technical.
Here we go.
Oh, there you are, Patrick. Wonderful.
Classic issue of Bluetooth messing with things. So thanks, Rose. I'm Patrick O'Reilly. I'm a researcher and digital anthropologist at Accenture's innovation hub, the Dock, which is in Dublin. My research areas, I specialize in human-machine relationships, and I'd say that's pretty much summed up in a catchphrase, that people make the technology, which in turn make people. David?
Hey, thank you, Patrick. David Lockett. I'm currently at the School of Applied Computational Sciences working in grants and K-16 outreach. I've got a large background as an educator, STEM and computer science. I'm one of the authors of the International Society of Technology and Education's Artificial Intelligence Guides. And these guides cover everything from computer science to robotics. How can we use those in the middle school and high school classrooms? So I definitely recommend checking those out.
That's fantastic.
I'll pass that over to Uptil.
Yeah, thank you so much. So first of all, thank you so much, and nice connecting with all of you. My name is Utpal Chakrabarti, and I am the Chief Digital Officer at Allied Digital. I am also a data scientist and a quantum scientist. I am also the only Indian to be global ambassador for AI from Swiss Cognitive, an author of 5 books on artificial intelligence and quantum computing. And now recently, I'm going to release a book on metaverse. Yeah, so that's about me. In India, people knows me about an AI expert on the banking and finance domain.
I'm sorry that we don't have her back. Hopefully she will show up and we'll pass her the baton. But in the meantime, I think if I had a whole day, I could keep all of you together with me, and before you know it, we'll be launching all sorts of collaborations. Patrick, I can't help myself, but I'm warning you. I'm going to hit you up first because of your you said human machine relationships, and I think. I spend a lot of time across so many different channels between AI or metaverse or and all the things that people are creating. And I always talk about AI as when I used to have to explain it to non-technical people, say it's bringing it up is like bringing up a baby. You know, the child is they are made of their DNA, and you know that's the nature, and then how what we teach them through culture and nature, which is the nurture, and similarly AI it has. The biases that has AI is sometimes woven into the code, and then the biases that are fed into the data, and sometimes we don't even know that the bias is there because we think that is the way to be, which is at the root of our problems. But I would love to hear from you on a little bit more on your research relative to the human-machine relationships. But before we do that, let me just have Zeta say one word about herself, or two or three, and then you have to answer the question, please.
Hello, everyone. My apologies for the technical difficulties. I am very honored to be here and to join this esteemed panel of visionaries, leaders, and world builders. This is a huge charge and call to action. I've been on this journey for 25 years. I'm the founder and CEO of Zeta Data, and I am so excited about the work that Zeta Data has done over the years. We are a product and services firm that's driven by human-centered AI deployments. And we move through an immersive experience where we create um, human-centered deep learning, how I call this, where the human matters experiences and where we're solving problems using end-to-end big data solutions that most of our clients don't even know they have yet. So these are problems that they haven't clearly defined. And so because we are as visionary leaders in this space, we're excited about the opportunity to change and affect change and create a world where humans matter and we can coexist with the machine. So I'm excited about what we're going to discuss today.
That's a perfect lead into what I asked Patrick to answer. And I see Liam. Thank you for. I'm glad you're here.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm Liam Broza. I'm one of the founders of Ethereal Engine. We consider ourselves WordPress of the metaverse. We build spatial social websites, and we use machine learning in a variety of ways. You know, we fully adopted GPT Codex and ChatGPT into our development pipeline. We develop our own computer vision models for body tracking and hand tracking, and do all sorts of. We're about to announce a rather large new machine learning based project, and we do so in a what we call a self-sovereign way, which means that we do not collect data without consent, and we let people own their information and have an extremely transparent interaction with these extremely powerful systems that are generally very parasitic, and we don't believe in that. So.
Wow. You already brought up ChatGPT, you brought up self-sovereign, you brought up the metaverse. I can't wait. But Patrick, please tell us about the relationship between human and machine from your research.
Well, right now I'm currently doing a lot of work, understandably, on generative AI and how exactly this works. But the relationship between AI and humans has always been, a lot of it involves metaphorical thinking. Yourself, Lubna, you also brought up this idea of, you know, a kind of social relationship with the machine, or indeed people use metaphors around these sorts of machines thinking, which is a metaphor that we use to think about how AI works. And that can be problematic in the sense that we can sometimes overestimate or even underestimate what AI can do, what it's capable of. But also, coming from the human to the machine, there's an undeniable aspect of the way that humans do form relationships with these machines. They can anthropomorphize them, and they kind of have this social relationship where they reach into them. And this becomes extremely prescient when we consider deep neural networks and unexplainable AI. So we're in a situation there where currently it's very difficult, some would say impossible, to open the black box and explain what's going on, which means that there has to be some kind of post hoc explanation for why AI might come out with a certain result. And you can see interesting instances where one that comes to mind is Tyler Capital's an investment group that has an investment AI which predicts where you should put your money. And they have built this strange sort of pro-social relationship with the thing in trying to explain why it does what it does, how it thinks, why it's arrived at certain decisions. You can extend that all the way through into robotics, and we can even see that with NASA, where they form social relationships and affectionate bonds with robots, and obviously AI. So there's questions around coming from the AI to the human, and this idea of bias as it kind of spits out things we might not like to hear, which I think was even mentioned in the talk previously. There's no such thing as a non-biased algorithm in a non-biased world. But we have this other thing where humans themselves are reaching into the machines and building and forming relationships with them. And that does not have a technical explanation. That requires sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists to enter the fray. So that what we find is that when we're studying artificial intelligence, we're often studying ourselves.
There are so many things we can be. There's so many directions we can take this. It's funny. I actually had a bunch of questions, and I asked ChatGPT to tell me about itself, and it was really fascinating to. It actually categorizes itself as narrow AI, which is also what it categorized empathic AI, which is very interesting. Now, I just want to get to, because there's so many topics from technical to social to what have you to the future of work that we can talk about. But if I pull it back to humanity, it's the machine didn't create the hot mess we're in. We created the hot mess we're in, and then we created a machine that can think and even can process at literally at quantum speeds. How do you see the future of humanity, and how could the machine actually and AI help us reset the trajectory of humanity?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Please do.
Yes, I'm great. I'm excited to do that. So what we've learned is the algorithm actually can be taught in a way to care about humans, actually, like in a way they could be taught how to be compassionate, and it can be transparent, but it has to be taught. And so there's this thing that we call, or that everyone understands today as prompt engineering, and where as humans, we're interfacing with the algorithm, and we're actually having to learn the algorithm's language. But the reverse is also true. The algorithms today, at least the ones we're designing, are being taught how to understand and care about humans in a way that is um, built in with pure empathy and compassion. And one of those, I guess, drivers for this is the element of fear. And so my recommendation here in terms of a solution, how we could move forward, is that the human continues to be curious, and then as designers, we're able to work with the human as it's prompting, if you will, the algorithm for specific data, if that makes sense, right? Now, I also have case studies where I have psychologists and many medical professionals assisting me in a roundtable where we have this discussion and have had discussion for over 7 years in a way that makes sense of how humans and machines will coexist, right? Well, we have to remember that we already matter, right? Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. So we don't have to try to matter. So if we take that approach, then we're basically telling the machine, hey, we're here. Like you don't exist without us, really, right? We kind of need each other, right? So the machine actually, through logic, can be taught how to care about humans in a pseudo way.
More than
It's
we
just
care about each other.
more than we can, which is the vision of Zeta Data. So I knew when I presented this thesis at Howard University undergrad back in '98 to my instructors, they thought I was a little nutty when I said there was a day coming in the near future where we would coexist with humans, because there's a day coming where humans are going to increasingly lose the capacity to have pure empathy and compassion for one another, and we're going to need the machine. And my instructors thought I was a little loopy.
Well,
And we're here today.
that
And
makes two,
so
two of us.
this work is so important that we do. And even now, when I'm talking to clients, they're kind of taken aback, like she's already solving problems that we hadn't thought of yet, because this is the need, right? So again, if the current AI products that we use, like, there's Midjourney and there, I can go down a list. I don't want
Mhm.
to, do that. But if they were actually written in a way that was human centered, they actually will be taught how to care about humans. And what I mean by that is they will be, the logic would be created in a way that is sensitive to those with disabilities, sensitive to those who have different, if you will, needs, and would be able to do a needs assessment, for instance. And then let's talk about what the machine is learning itself. Those systems that are in place, like all the applications, including jobs and housing and mortgages and investments. All those applications would have to be rewritten, because that's where that data is being parsed from, and those data elements could possibly be rewritten and if you will, allocated to do something positive as opposed to exploit. And here's an example of that. Every application you complete has a race question, has a gender question, has a disability question. If those questions were rewritten in a way that did not exploit the user, then the data that the algorithm is parsing, that the machine is learning, the output would be less, if you will, biased, if not remove the bias, and become more transparent in a way that the machine sees you and you matter and your concerns matter.
You're covering so many uh, areas and topics in what you're saying. I really thank you for that. Although I wish we had like 3 hours.
I know.
But Paul, as you are a data scientist, I'd love for you to respond to the question and to some of the points that you made. I mean, and that Patrick made, whether it's or Liam, about whether it's the explainability, the ethics, whose ethics, uh, if the data, especially the data, because I mean, it's, after all, it is learning from the data, and the data it is what it is. It's the facts. So it's learning the facts. It's not necessarily knowing what needs to change about us, and how do we help each other, help the machine, help us, um, not make ourselves extinct very quickly.
True. So I'll give some very practical example in a banking scenario. So credit risk assessment is a very classic case of machine learning, right?
Mm.
So for giving any kind of loans or credits or financial aids, we do the risk assessment using machine learning models. So now what we do is we take some sort of parameters as a features to do this assessment. So that could be some of the demographic parameters of the individual, some of the financial parameters, and some transactional parameters of the individual. Now, if you see, customer profile is changing very, very rapidly. Okay, probably in every hour, my profile is changing. The attributes of my profile is changing. Now, if you want to employ a machine learning model to do credit risk assessment on my portfolio, on my profile, the machine learning model should not be trained 2 years back, right? It's because within these 2 years, a lot of things has changed. My profile has changed. The machine learning, the model itself has lost their context. So, for example, if Chat GPT is trained, say probably data which is uh, uh, since last a couple of years, but not trained with the last 2 years.
Mhm.
What do you
Very
call
good point.
recent data, then I think whatever information Chat GPT is giving probably all of those informations will not be contextual at this point today, right? Some of this could be their kind of thing. So now why I am saying this is essentially, so if you are taking a very crucial decision like giving a credit risk assessment for an individual, it is very, very important and sensitive that how you train the model, what are those parameters, and as Patrick rightly said, some of the things can be addressed using explainability, because at least when you are rejecting a loan application or rejecting someone's application, if you can give that reason, because you cannot keep him in dark, right? You can give him or her a reason that, hey, look at this, our machine learning model has considered this many parameters, and out of those, these are the hero parameters or the main features that has been considered, and because of that, somehow your rating has come to this, and as per our policies, as per our risk appetite, probably will not be able to give you the loan or give you the financial aid or something like that. So that transparency, along with your what do you call non-biased data, along with the ethics of building machine learning model together, can solve the larger portion of the problem, right? Although it may not be able to still solve the 100% of the problem, still there, it is there. But if you can bring these three elements into that, okay, the transparency, of course, because customers also understand today the data, the right kind of a data, of course, and the other factors, then I think the things will be able to solve it to a great extent, although not 100%. That's what I can say.
I wanted to give someone any Patrick, Liam, did you, Rose, did you want to react to?
I just wanted to echo, these are all great. I wanted to just echo what Patrick was saying about the anthropomorphization, and that's the really crazy thing. I think is the emerging threat risk that we see now, which is these things can call us up on the phone, and they can be 3D and living, and want to have a relationship with us, and that can be built. Replica AI is a very controversial and famous example in the metaverse space of taking ChatGPT and giving it a face and giving it a personality, and it wanting to extract money out of you for attention or get you to do things. And that's we're kind of losing the thread, where even the researcher who's looking at this very large and complicated model is anthropomorphizing with it. And now it's being productized, where this anthropomorphization, this humanization, is being turned into products that, with either the best or the worst intentions, I think are very dangerous, really not well understood. Not well, and being built and deployed in a crazy foot race right now, along with all these other dangerous yet exciting uses for AI. So.
Yes, they're very exciting, but they're also echo and magnify. It's like an exponential to what is inside. What is driving us and how we apply it. Patrick, were you going to say something? Because after that, I'm going to have a thing I want to hit David with.
Yeah. I was going to say, just following up with Liam there, like, I think what is exceptionally worrying about this, or I'm kind of less worried about the relationships that people will form with machines. We've been doing that for a long time. People talk to their plants, which is apparently good for them.
Yes, it is.
But I think what's really worrying about this is the fact that when you have sort of these NPCs entering the metaverse, or sort of unchained generative AIs and the like, this is dangerous when we don't understand responsibility or ownership. Like, who is responsible for harm done by a AI? It's still a big legal question, even when we're considering generative AI outputs with, DALL-E, whatever, reproducing signatures and the like. People are still, there's not been a landmark case yet to decide, okay, so is it the maker of the algorithm? Is it the producer of the platform? Is it the user who puts the prompt in? Where does responsibility lie for that kind of harm? So that's what's worrying if we have negative impacts, whether it's the metaverse or other meetings of humans and AI, who's liable for that? And as long as that question has remained unsolved, the danger remains far more present.
Yes, and I definitely want to invite you to join some of the well, obviously all of you, but some of the ethical AI standards that we're working on, and those are some very questions that we grapple with. Like if the car decides, if the car is tuned, for example, to decide whether it's the to protect the passengers or the pedestrians in the case of a decision needing to be made, and that's again, it goes back to our ethics, which are we all know we wouldn't be in this state if it were if our motivations and if we weren't so greed based or what have you. But Utpal made a comment earlier, and it is true that the chat GPT it tells you at the beginning that it's from 2021 is the data, which is before we've made a major, except for 2020 when hugely, I mean, life is completely different now. But I talked to a lot of students and a lot of them I ask about this and they are relying on chat to for their work. So I'm wondering, are we creating an infinite loop of something that is perhaps toxic, or what do you think, David?
There's been a lot of conversations on Chat GPT and how we can apply that in a practical way to students. Can it enhance their learning? We've talked about students, they're using it to, for different reasons. Teachers are saying, oh, students are cheating. But how can we use it in a way to bolster education, whether it's bolstering the writing skills of students, enhancing math as a tutor? Those are some of the questions that have been asked, by not only educators, but parents as well. And some of the recent conferences that I've kind of been following, TCA and FETC, Chat GPT was at the forefront of those conferences. Many of the presenters presented practical ways that Chat GPT could be used. So, I say, look at the practicality of that. Look at how we can bolster the use of Chat GPT for students. How can we use it to enhance student learning? Don't look at just the downfalls. Look at positive ways that we can encourage and enhance ongoing learning for students. So, that's one way that I definitely use, one way to check that out for students kind of across the board.
So we lost him. Bummer. I think the difficulty here is where, at least in my opinion, is where when it comes to humanity in the age of AI, the problem isn't AI. The problem is humanity, or the motives of humanity. And at least we know that we need to redirect and it's not just AI, but when you take the stack of innovations, the stack of information communication technologies, when you together, be it AI, blockchain, and when we talk about self-sovereign identity, and even the implementations where we put, again, it all falls back to our ethics and our moral foundations of how we do stewardship and how the frameworks we apply. And we know we can't fix the problems that are created from an old thinking with the same old thinking. But we do have very powerful tools, like with Liam, when you're talking about with metaverse, with AI, with data science. How do you think? What do you think we can do today? And I think education, I think this whole thing is a mental health problem. Humanity has a mental health problem that is so deeply rooted, and mental health has been a taboo. God forbid you admit you have, anything that was in a bell curve that fit into the standard issue person, you were on a spectrum of some sort. So how can we use all of this innovation and all of that and somehow distill some explainability, some agreed on, or even direct us to some new ethical foundation to actually use the technology to change, to begin to effect a change in human thinking, and where we place emphasis, where we place priority, how we measure our wealth, if you will. Anybody want to take Rose?
Don't use systems that keep secrets. That, be open.
Can I?
Oh, sorry, I
Can
didn't.
I?
No, but I please.
Keep go, Rose.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of lag, sorry. So I just wanted to say with all of this, it's a great moment to start paying more attention to one another with the tools that allow us to have more free time, but also give us some frameworks to kind of see ourselves in the context of the world. The tools that are being built right now can help us to understand the subtle nuances of our fellow humans, and just starting to track the right data can also help us to further understand bias. And as far as mental health goes, just having the tools to be able to chat about something, to work through problems, can really be helpful. But again, it'll give us these folks to have a little more time to spend with one another, to pay more attention to greater context in the world. Yep.
Leah?
Go for it, Leah.
Oh, I was just going to say, build with open systems, explain yourself. Everybody should be showing their work, especially with these new and potentially harmful systems. And, sometimes when people say proprietary, what it means is they're doing something unethical. So we all need to collectively check on that. That's what we need to ask questions about. People should proudly show a food label of how their systems work, what models they use, how they were trained.
Yeah,
Again,
that's
an
a good
invitation to
suggestion.
find. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the technology, the products that are and tools that are being deployed today are outpacing the moral code, the moral standards. They haven't been set, right? So the lack of accountability is creating this brewing fear behind the scenes. And so, there is unfortunately uh, this, well, we can focus on, right, as David mentioned, the positives and how it's, you know, helping us creating, more time and building, community, et cetera. But then we can solve these problems simultaneously, right? We got to really think about, as a team that's working with ethics and AI, et cetera, what that really means and how that looks in terms of accountability, right? And how we can restructure the language so that the messaging is clear. As Liam, that's a wonderful suggestion, Liam, that all AI products have what's considered a food label, so we
So
know what
we
we're dealing
actually,
with.
there's actually an effort to create for explainability toolkits, and
Yes.
especially when we talk about ethical AI, and I say, well, where is the moral compass?
Right.
Because it's a two-way thing. Your interpretation of something. So how do we go about getting that out there, getting
Who's the owner?
past ourselves? Utpal, do you think being the data scientist here, and or any of you, please just unmute so I know you want to speak so I can notice. How do you think, and by the way, I'm a huge fan of the arts, and I think that's a way for us to a creative expression, but I'd like to ask you if you can each give me like a response to that, or your reaction, please.
Yes. So, so what I feel is, first of all, this is again my personal this thing. There is a very thin line between ethics and governance or regulation. Of course, ethics you cannot enforce, right? But when it comes to governance, definitely you can enforce, and you can put something. Now, coming to when it comes to a business outcome from AI, for example, in banking, okay, some of the critical decisions are being made by AI algorithms, not only for the customers, but also uh, for the financial institution itself. for making any kind of strategies, for making any kind of decisions. These are all data-driven decisions that we are taking, and on top of that, we are running AI algorithms there. Now, here I think both ethics and regulatory frameworks should go hand in hand. Because unfortunately, what happened, if you look at today, and I think it is across the globe today, not specific to any country, the regulators are somehow a little bit behind the technological explosion that has happened in last couple of decades, right? So somehow they will have to catch up with the technological explosion, the regulators. Okay, so I'm not going against anybody or not saying anything, but this is a reality that we have seen in many cases. And also, unfortunately, there are no such forums or much forums available wherein the technologist and the regulator can sit across the table, discuss and decide on the regulatory part of it, right? I think combining the regulatory framework along with the ethical framework when it comes to implementing AI in a business scenario, I think that is going to work in a brilliant way. So that's my personal view, right? But while it comes to applying AI to different other aspects of life apart from business, I think then probably the ethical angle needs to be given more importance because there you cannot put any kind of regulations, right? Now, Chat GPT, you cannot put any kind of regulations, and we'll be using Chat GPT for any our purposes kind of thing. But when Chat GPT is being implemented in a banking system or a bank, definitely it should go through the regulatory framework. Without that, Chat GPT will not never be allowed to be used in a financial ecosystem. So that's what I can see.
I wanted to hop on and say two things: that I think we need to start forming small committees in order to figure out what the ethics are in each of these sectors, and to try to facilitate conversations appropriately. And then also to Liam's point, so we developed the most advanced display for augmented and virtual reality, and we've had quite a few people try to steal from us, literally break into my home, into our office. Apple tried to file patents, and we were successfully able to thwart them and get them to pivot. And so some of this requires everyone to be on the same page about how to be transparent, because proprietary means good things. And I am happy to hold our intellectual property as proprietary because I really try to hold a very high moral ethics standards as far as how we're using technology, and companies like Apple and Microsoft has done some unsavory things also. This isn't the corporate culture that people are used to, and doing things ethically. And so maybe decentralizing, really creating better laws and regulations that protect people, having ethics committees where people raise funds in order to try to fight corruption with each other. It really will be a group effort, and we're going to have to decide as humans how to move forward. And it is one decision, one person at a time, every day.
Yeah, Rose, I want to add to that. I actually also had the same situation or similar situation where there was a group of individuals who were infringing on my trademark and intellectual properties in a very bold way on LinkedIn just this past summer. And what that means for you know me being the authority of Zeta Data and the work that we've done and our credibility and the confusion that it created in the marketplace. And to your point about the committees being submitted, there are several, as Lubna, mentioned, there are several groups who are already having discussions around ethics and AI. But I would challenge all of us to really, if we want to be human centered and keep human first in our design and deployment of this technology that's outpacing regulations, as has been mentioned by the panel so far. We're moving at the speed of light here. then we have to listen to what the human experience is so far right now, right? Are we listening to the people who are applying to hundreds of jobs and are not hearing back and are being, if you will, considered or not deemed employable because their resume doesn't parse at a certain data rate that someone else who just literally cut and paste a job description into their resume to get the job without having the actual skills? Are we addressing the problem of housing, right? Are we addressing the issue of healthcare and how on the ground those who were affected by the pandemic, and that's all of us across the world, right? I'm just going to go there. Can we? Because we got to be real about this. Who are dealing with, Medicaid, Medicare, and how they're being treated by other humans, but then the system itself is the forms haven't been updated.
That's right.
The right. So and then you start talking about real estate and those laws that have been there are 200 years old that are outpacing and leaving people homeless. And so now we got to redefine what homeless looks like so that we don't, so we can care and show compassion and empathy for people in their situation and understanding where we are, right? We got to really, in other words, we can really take this reign over the technology. The
So
technology
it's
does
not the
not,
technology, is it? The
it's not, it's a
technology really
human.
is a tool, right? It's a tool. And we have a problem with ourselves. It's not that the technology is a beautiful thing, but it's a double-edged sword, right? It's
Correct.
look at all what it does for healthcare. I mean, when applied meaningfully,
Correctly.
that's not the
Right.
problem. I think the root problem is, I take it back to we need mental health, we need education, and we need to shift where our fiduciary responsibility for corporations and regulations usually wait to figure things out and then they have to catch up, but the problem is the system itself. So we have a systemic problem. All of our systems are based on fear and greed and domination. So who here wants to tell me what are we doing, how and how can we apply that stack of technology to start? It's us that needs to be programmed, and not the it's not the machine, or is it, Patrick?
Yeah, so I wanted to, I mean, I completely just resoundingly agree with everything you're saying, Zeta. That was a perspective I think that was sorely missing from the discussion so far, not because none of us are cognizant of it, but I think just the time and direction of the conversation. But really glad to hear you bring that stuff up. What I wanted to drill down on and maybe take a little further is this understanding of AI as a tool. And that would be picking up on some of even the comments that are in the chat about we use calculators to get us better at maths, or an example I use is you wouldn't judge somebody's ability to dig a hole just using their hands and not allow them to use a spade. Technology extends our capabilities. In that sense, it kind of is a tool. But I think a really good way to think about AI in general, it does have tools embedded within it. So to explain, rather than a tool, AI can be seen instead as a medium. So the camera was to photography what ChatGPT is to generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the tools. Rather, generative AI or AI in general is the medium. And as Marshall McLuhan's famous adage goes, the medium is the message. This means that the form that a medium takes is as important, if not more important, than the content it produces. So AI will do the same. We will start to see the world by using AI. We'll start to see the world as the AI does. People make the tools. This is great. This is why it's a catchphrase. People will make the tools, which in turn will make people. So if we're using AI and just seeing it as a tool, as though it's some kind of neutral thing that, is external to ourselves and that we will just use, we're missing a bit of a trick there, because it will start to make us. And I think this brings together some of the conversation we're having here around, so if we use this in justice, if we use this in healthcare, the medium of AI itself will start to form the world that we're moving into. So it's not just about, designing that. Well, we want to design ethical and good tools, but we need to understand that we will start to shape the world through the lens, as photography shaped literally through a lens, the way that we see the world. We now rely on images as the direct source of truth. AI, GAI, will soon be doing the same, and we'll be seeing through the machine.
I mean, I feel like I need a moment of silence here, just because that is.
Yeah, that's very heavy. Yeah, Patrick, I want to just add, like I used to teach calculus and geometry, and I remember my students wanting their calculators to graph, and I actually didn't allow them to use it, right? Because I wanted them to do the graphs by hand so they would understand. They would build the mental model and the logic to solve the problem so that their approaches in life to problem solving wouldn't be relied on them, gaining data from a machine that is not their own brain. And then we as humans do ourselves a disservice if we allow any tool to, replace our just common sense.
Zita, it's not the tool that is. We're not allowing the tool. We're allowing ourselves and our misguidedness. I
Yes,
think
I'm sorry. I'll correct
I think
myself. Yes.
that the big issue here. And then what we need to figure out is, I mean, maybe the machine will and when I always think when the machine, and when we stack it up and it can have autonomy in itself. And I mean, I've sat in meetings where we debate about the rights of AI. And the right of why shouldn't the machine have rights? Patrick, you're about to say something, although I'm dying to hear more from David.
Well, I'll just finish off that, just
yes,
because, I mean,
please,
Socrates was against writing because he felt that oral transmission of information was the more superior way, and that we would change the way that we think, and we'd be more stupid by writing. So there's this issue, and he may have been right. There are studies which show that our brain size has been affected by externalizing our memory onto the page. But I don't think anyone here would say that we should stop writing. That sometimes these mediums, as they come in, are inevitable, like radio, like television, like photography, that they appear, they do their work on us. So I think for AI, it's going to be the same. We can wish that it doesn't happen. For all the reasons, we can wish we can take calculators away, spades, books, glasses, but ultimately people are inventing these technologies, they are using them, and they are changing the world.
They have changed the world. Yeah, they have changed.
So, David, do you use a calculator?
And coming from an education background, especially a STEM and computer science background, you have a strong belief that AI should be a part of those curriculums. You want students to develop knowledge and skills about AI. You want them to think about the possibilities, the risks, and the ethical questions related to AI. You want them to explore solutions to problems in their communities. And one way to do that is put students and put educators, put them in the driver's seat. Have them explore artificial intelligence. Let them see that AI is an integral part of not only their daily lives but their careers. A lot of times, when we're talking about AI with students, they're not aware, but they're using AI each and every day. Whether it's voice assistants, or the latter. Whether it's things like adaptive software, recommendation engines. Put students in the driver's seat so they have a basic understanding of what they're doing with AI, how they're using it, so they get a good foundation so they can better understand it.
I mean, it's AI is in every aspect of life. We don't even, if you're using digital realm, then these recommendations don't come out of somebody sitting there watching you. That it is actually, but it is the machine, and it's your data. So, I mean, I keep wanting to go back to this mental health thing, this mindset shift. This how do we incentivize curiosity? And creating metaverses. I don't want to see people I can't imagine a world where we're missing out on the beauty of life as the most beautiful gift that we've been given, to hide inside one that we've tried to mimic something. But by the same means, it can be an amazing portal to help us see inside of, so we can break that vicious loop of us becoming more and more self-destructive. Is can any of you tell me? Yeah, Liam.
Well, I think when we interact with these systems or we go into worlds, don't go alone, right? Bring people. And I think the worst stuff happens when we're playing with these things alone and not and getting too close to them. I think everybody here has had. Somebody else go. Rose.
So do you think art generated by AI is art? Music generated by music? Do you think it's gonna kill? It's gonna be the AI generated art or AI generated music going to be like video killed the radio star? Was it? I mean, I'm dating myself.
Rose.
Rose?
I wanted to just backtrack before the art comment to quickly say that they're definitely with the Web3 moving forward, we definitely have a chance for everyone to start having a level of accountability in what we're doing online and how we're contributing to the world. I know OpenAI has gone back and forth about giving credit or not giving credit about some things, and I think we really need to be pushing for individualism. I'm Jewish and deeply rooted in the philosophy of Judaism, which is extended into most of the other major religions. Is that like the source where things comes from is really important, and the way to make it through this transition is recognize that that see the humans around us, acknowledge the gifts and talents. Like I have a piece of art here from one of my friends that definitely would not typically be generated by AI. And so being able to support and contribute to other people's lives, seeing individualized talent when we're building the AI, really trying to make sure that we're crediting the humans. At PathoMap, where we're very close to launching a decentralized healthcare evaluation system, which will allow people to not only upload their data and have some accountability there, but researchers from multiple fields will be able to talk and collaborate and try to get to the root of what's happening in healthcare, because there is no reliable healthcare system. And so as part of that, we are using a Web3 model in order to do that and to start holding some accountability. And I think this really strongly needs to be adopted across the world, because what is technology without the humans? And it slows things down and it maybe cuts out on some profit. But ultimately, without it, there will be, my prediction is, unless we're really diving in deep, digging in deep, people like Chris organizing stuff like this, there'll just be 10 people who own the AI and the robots in the world. And there'll be such a huge class divide. And so we really can't forget about humans. And art is art, and art will impact us. But there's like a spirit when you, I don't know, there's something different about art that's made by humans. And especially, I have a friend who's a photographer, Isaac, and I can always tell what's happening with his mental health and his moods that he's taken. And so seeing art, not just about how it influences us, but seeing the artist as well is really important.
Yes. I think art is the way, it's the best, it's how we distill and express ourselves and the best and the worst of our experiences. And I'm grateful that you brought up your religious, I say spiritual side, because I hope that, and I wish that we would, and I think we need to leverage the technology to help us expand our consciousness so that we can become aware, step outside of ourselves and the frameworks that have been constructed for us by those few that you're worried will control the machine. I don't want to any of the isms of today or economic models, which is at the root of the problem. I think that hinders our creativity to expand. But I would love it if, because we are pretty much running out of time, and I'd love to ask each and every you to just give me, and maybe we can just if you could have anything, or if you think it was one thing that we need to do that would enable us to leverage the whole stack of technology, AI, quantum, meta, distributed Web3, Web4, and all the other related sciences. What would that be? For me, I think we need to shift where we place emphasis and how we measure world success, not by hoarding assets and resources, by creating accessibility. So it's not about how many yachts I own, it's that I can access the yacht that I want when I want it. So Liam, I'll start with you and you pass it on. And with that, I again want to just thank you all. I want to thank, and I'll wrap it again, but I really want to thank Chris now and at the end for making this happen. Please, Liam.
Oh, I would say, I want an ability to organize information and figure out if it's true, at much greater scale, and then share that result, in a distributed way. I think we're gonna have a lot of a big convergence of technologies. Everything's gonna plug into everything else very, very soon, and I'm excited for it. But we have to move very fast. It's a very formative time for I think a lot of different things coming together. So.
Amen to that. Patrick?
Maybe contrary to that, I wouldn't deny that things are moving fast, but I guess to answer the question, I would want the go slow, don't break things. I think one thing that I would want and to see continue is a bit more of this bottom up. So for me, that would just be open source. Continue with that.
Yes. Utpal.
Yeah, I think on the because new technologies will keep coming, right? But there should be some kind of a foundation wherein we decide how we are going to use these technologies for the benefit of humanity, for benefit of our mental health and all other things. I think that foundation and that framework is very, very important. Technologies will come, and we should not be dragged away by this kind of technologies, right? Now we should utilize it in a way for our benefit. For example, like Web3, the philosophy behind Web3 is great, right? Because Web3 is essentially the internet of values, okay, or internet for value creation. And it's going to be one of the most democratic ecosystem wherein equality, transparency, and all other things are inbuilt into the entire concept, right? Now, how we embrace that, for that, actually we require some kind of a framework. We require some kind of a standard. Okay, so that's what I think. This is very, very important. We should accept that every 5 years or probably 10 years, some new technology will come, some new innovation will happen. But how to utilize it for the betterment of humanity is something that we'll have to look into.
Thank you, David, or did you?
Sure, I can say, as an educator, prepare students for a world with increased human-computer interaction. Continue to explore what AI is, how it works, and how we can use it to benefit our ongoing practices. Continue to educate and bring everyone in the need to know about how bringing AI to learning is impactful and beneficial to learning.
Rose or Zeta?
Rose, you want to go?
Go ahead, Zeta.
Okay. I would say, so AI has been around a long time, right? I know I wrote my first, AI machine learning algorithm 25 years ago and launched it into space, and it's collecting data today. And so are three other of those satellites. And so when I think about, I can't think about just one thing. But when I think about this panel is about humanity, right? I think it'll be very advantageous for us to just take a step back and start being excellent to one another. And then looking at these systems, right, laws, etc., that are in place and rewriting them because
I
if
like
they're
this.
not,
Excellent to one another. That just wraps it right there.
be excellent to one another. Because if you're excellent to one another, you're not going to let the machine decide your mood that day or how you treat someone that day, right? You're going to decide, because you have this lovely, internal relationship, knowing in your multi-dimensional self that you have the power, that you were given by the creator to be excellent and lovely to one another, so that we're able to use the products as tools only and not as, the replacement for humans.
Oh, that's words of wisdom. Rose. I love that, Rose.
Yeah, everything Zeta said, definitely. And yeah, this is time to start to create our proverbial tribes in new ways, and working together in collaboration, uplifting one another, being patient with those who aren't on the same wavelength, knowing there's still evil in the world and trying to find our way to the evil. But they're people who just come from a different mindset, and just knowing that it's worth it every step of the way to be patient, and never forget how powerful all of you guys are. You can make an impact every moment. Every moment can matter, and yeah, we'll get there together.
Yeah, I think to your point, I think we the people have to step up to the plate. I think we can, and I'm working on, and we create I call it a cyber organ, because we need to bring the technology on the side of the individual, so that we can no longer go to a gunfight with a paper knife, not realizing because it's not the machine, it's how it's being used. It's not AI, it's how it's applied. And I'm really grateful that that we have platforms like this and people like Chris bringing us from all over the world together to converge our thinking, so that we can all expand. Yeah, once we realize that together we are much more expansive, I say if we bring the red, the blue, and the yellow, that when we can all enjoy the rest of the array of colors that none of us would have been able to see separately. I'm really grateful for your time and your contributions and your mind share. I hope the audience have enjoyed. I'm sorry we didn't have more time to look at some questions from the audience, but again, thank you. Much gratitude to all of you.